Super Mario 64. Super Mario 64. I don't even know where to start. I know exactly where to start. The Great Nintendo Heist of 65. It was 1972, and Nintendo had just finished airing the final Super Nintendo game. They were hungry for more. Meanwhile, deep in the mountains of Tajikistan, Sony had a plan of their own. In their super secret base, they were developing Gex. Little known fact, Mario 64 was the first 3D game ever released, but it wasn't supposed to be. Gex should have come out first, but after Freddy Fudnudger, Sony employee, defected to Nintendo and told them about Sony's plan, Nintendo struck at them fierce. Their most elite team of spies and special agents were sent in to steal Gex's code. They got in, took it, and made a break for it, but someone slipped on a banana peel and the alarm was triggered. Outside, there was a huge gunfight, but in the end, Sony lost more men and retreated, letting Nintendo get away with the code. Lost in the battle was Reaganomics Lamborghini, the game designer who made it so that Gex sets up a Family Guy cutaway every couple of seconds.
This looks like an all-nighter at Richard Simmons' house. This is what Tim Burton thinks about when he's in the tub. I haven't been this scared since I was trapped in Barry Manilow's rumpus room.
You know, we make a great team, guys, like Huey Lewis and the Jews.
Mario 64 would then become a box office hit and win 7 primetime Emmys. Seriously though, welcome back to the channel. I said I was coming back, then I made some mediocre to terrible videos, then I left again. This time, unannounced. But now I'm back for good, hopefully, and I'd like to come back with what I'd like to call Corporate Salmon 66's Collectathon-a-thon. In honor of 3D All-Stars coming out for the Switch, I'd like to review the 4 main Mario collectibles that are on the Switch right now. Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Mario Galaxy, and Mario Odyssey. And today we'll be starting off with Mario 65. But history and introductions aside, let's get on to the actual review. There's a lot to love with this game. It's easy to see why so many people cherish the game as they do. For the time that it came out, the graphics were unbelievable. You can't really get a scope on how cool this was unless you had spent your entire life up to that point only playing side-scrollers and puzzle games. Many people say that even if this game contained nothing but Mario walking around outside of Peach's castle, they still would have loved it. That's why so many game reviewers give this game a perfect score or a really good rating. Pretty much all of these adults have nostalgia bias, but I never played the game as a kid, and it never changed my life like it did these other people. That's not to say I have no nostalgia bias. I love Color Splash, even though looking back, it's really not a perfect game like my less than stellar review made it out to be. But I can guarantee this, I'm not going to be having any nostalgia bias towards any early Nintendo games such as this game. But enough about that, on to things I like about this game. First thing I can really say I love about this game is the graphics. I said I won't look at this game like someone from the future looking back, but I find this game's graphics really charming. In a day where everything is detailed to the maximum, it's refreshing to see a game that just leaves its textures out on the floor and wall. For instance, the same green grass texture will often go from the ground and then straight up the wall. That would never fly today, and I understand why, but it's still nice to see. Sometimes there's a nice little detail like the occasional patch of grass sticking out, a pillar, a stone block, and in the water levels you can find kelp and fishes. I actually like Mario's design. The polygons make him very stylized, and you can easily tell this is Mario 64 Mario I'm looking at right now. Another thing I like about this game is the choices. In order to progress, you need to collect power stars. Each level has 6 main power stars, and then some secret stars as well. In order to access new levels, you have to have a certain amount of stars on your person. So if you want to get to level 2, it costs 2 stars to get into. You're going to have to find at least 2 stars in level 1 before moving on to level 2. Then you go through a bunch of levels, you fight Bowser, and then get a key. Then you gain access to a ton of new levels where you get to collect even more stars and try to reach the 70-star requirement to fight Final Bowser and complete the game. The genius part about this is, if you don't like a mission or a level, you can skip it. There are 120 stars in the game, leaving a lot of stars you can skip. But you can finish the game with however many stars you want. There's just a lot of freedom in how you approach the game, which I think is, again, lost in modern titles. The third main thing I like about this game is the creativity in the world that they created. This game has a lasting impact on gaming for its mechanics and 3D premise, but it also left its mark on how so much other stuff due to its iconic characters and moments. For instance, I can think of few memes more classic than So Long Gay Bowser, and few themes more classic than Bob-Omb Battlefield. So many of these locations and bosses would go on to make appearances in future games. For instance, King Bob-Omb would go on to make many guest appearances in Mario Party games. King Whomp and Whomp's Fortress would reappear in Mario Galaxy. The eel in Jolly Roger Bay would terrify kids everywhere, so would the piano from Big Boo's Haunt. Some of these locations I doubt we'll ever see again, like Dire Dire Docks or Wet Dry World. They don't fit with the traditional Mario style, and I think the only reason they made it into this game in the first place was because the traditional Mario style wasn't a theme yet, and he was more of a flagship character and less of a cash cow that they could take no risks with. The fourth and final main thing I can say I love about this game is it gave way to so many great mods. For instance, there's one where Mario has a sombrero and he has to climb a giant wall and then fight King Whomp, who just so happens to have the face of Mr. the Donald Trump, President of the United States. Sometimes people will create entire freaking games, like with Super Mario 64 Final Impact. All new levels, stars, textures, enemies. It's really just incredible what some people were able to do with just some textures and code that isn't even that advanced. Well, that's about where the positives end, because while all of that stuff over there was great, it didn't change the fact that I actually didn't have too much fun with Mario 64. This isn't like my old Sonic Mania review, where I exaggerated my points just to be different. I found myself actually not enjoying most of this game. I'll just get it out of the way. The absolute biggest, worst part of my experience was without a doubt the controls. They are absolutely terrible. Maybe they are better on the N64, but I'm currently reviewing the Switch version, and the Switch controls are utter crap. In a game like Mario Maker 2, I can press the A button in rapid succession, and Mario will jump a bunch of times one after another with no delay and no interruptions. In this game, if I press A too fast, Mario just stops and I bang into a wall and he falls either to the bottom of the level or to his death. They in general feel super clunky and unresponsive, and while yes, I do suck at this game, there were a lot of times where I pressed A or stopped the joystick, but it just wouldn't input, and I died. I could go on for hours about why these controls won't work, but I'll leave it at this. Nintendo should not have just blindly ported this game. They should have made some effort to change the controls. I mean, they obviously had enough time to patch out the backwards long jump and change So Long Gay Bowser to Bye Bye, so I guess they just didn't have their priorities straight. My second major flaw with this game is something I know is a major complaint with the original, so this isn't a Switch exclusive problem. It's the camera. In a game like Mario Odyssey, you move the right joystick around and the camera goes wherever you want it to, with only minor automatic adjustments. In this game, the camera is pretty much fixed. You can slightly move it left, right, or down, but you have to hold it or it just goes flying back to its fixed location like a tape measure. If you try to move it up, it immediately goes to a first-person perspective where you can't move unless you get out of it. This isn't always a problem though. For instance, in Bob-Omb Battlefield, when you're scaling the mountain, the camera will automatically adjust to be constantly following Mario in a way that only the mountain and Mario are visible, and that doesn't bother me too much. But when I'm trying to perform a difficult jump in some random spots, the camera can randomly jerk away from Mario, causing him to fall into some abyss. During my playthrough, I was always wrestling with the camera for control, and the janky controls really didn't help that. My third and final major flaw with this game is the lack of direction. When you start up a level, the only hint you're given is the name of the star. I was constantly having to search up what to do, and I really didn't like having to visit IGN sites more than absolute necessary. As an example, in the Whomp's Fortress stage, there's a star called Blast Down the Wall. What do you think you're supposed to do there? I'll give you a second to think about it. Done? Well, you're supposed to go to the cannon and shoot yourself into a specific corner of some random wall, then go up to that wall and collect the star. There is no freaking way I would have figured that out on my own. And to my knowledge, there is no hint feature, so I'm really baffled about how people found that star in the 90s, where there was no IGN to tell you that Pokemon Alpha Sapphire had too much water in it. This isn't the case for all stars, though. 8 red coins of Jolly Roger Bay or scaling Bob-Omb Mountain are pretty self-explanatory, but I shouldn't have to use my brain in a puzzle-solving way while playing a platformer. If I wanted to use my brain, I'd play Bejeweled or try to figure out where boogers come from. While I of course respect the hell out of this game for inspiring thousands of people to make 3D games the norm, I can't just overlook the fact that I didn't have very much fun with Mario 64. Because all the charming graphics and great music in the world can't make up for horrible controls and a disobedient camera. I for sure didn't hate it, but it's not going in the all-timers closet, I can tell you that much. 6 out of 10.